I'm back, and not dead. And this time I've got a different type of video than usual. Don't worry, as my usual reviews aren't going anywhere, but since I've been gone for 6 or so months, I figured this would be the perfect opportunity to make up for lost time by talking about more than one game for a change. Over the last few years, Super Nintendo collecting has skyrocketed, not only in popularity but also in price, and it seems like more and more people are missing out on a handful of great games because they don't want to dish out the dough that certain games command. This rings especially true for the import scene, as many of the best games command quite a high price tag. But I'm here to show you that that's not always the case, with a short list of cheap, yet good SNES imports. My criteria for this list is as follows. The game must be under $30 loose or complete in box, and it must never have made it stateside. First up is SD The Great Battle. This top-down platforming shooter is another in the long-running Compati Hero series, which I've talked about before on the channel. SD The Great Battle is right up there with Battle Racers as one of my favorite in the series, as it's just mind-numbingly fun shooting down enemy after enemy in a wide variety of worlds. You also get a decent variety of characters at your disposal, which you can switch between on the fly, each with their own theme song. The controls are solid and the graphics are great. I mean, how can you not love that beautiful Mode 7 in the first stage? This game must have had a big print, as it's one of the cheapest on the list, going anywhere from $4 to $15 loose or complete. A budget buy certainly worth the money. When mentioning the Bomberman series, not often do people bring up the unique spin-offs it got in the SNES era, in particular the two B-Daman games. Both are neat little puzzle games with a simple idea. Blow up as many of the bombs on screen as you can with one big chain reaction. It's basically like bowling with bombs. It starts simple but slowly gets harder as the bombs begin to move and other obstacles are introduced. It really comes down to timing, and I can't tell you how exciting it is to finally figure out how to 100% a level that took you a few tries. On top of that, both games feature a dedicated battle mode for double the fun. Both titles are dirt cheap, but I do recommend the second game, Bakuyu Renpatsu B-Daman, over the first. Continuing with the theme of puzzle games, we have Tetris Battle Gaiden. This is easily the deepest Tetris game ever made, and one of, if not the greatest puzzle games ever made. Tetris Battle Gaiden is a versus Tetris game with magic that messes with the other opponent's board and controls. Oh yeah, it's just as crazy as it sounds. Every few pieces you'll see a block with magic on it. If a row with magic is cleared, you get said magic and can cast it to save your board or screw over player 2. It gets deeper when you realize that you both share the block queue in the center, and it becomes a race to see who can set their piece down first to get that magic block. Trust me, it gets better. You can deny the other player a game-saving piece or a precious magic block that you missed by casting your attack, as any piece that hasn't been set down is trashed the second a player uses their magic. And did I mention each character has different abilities? Also, the soundtrack is unbelievably catchy. I find myself humming tunes from this game more often than I'd like to admit. Trust me, I can keep talking about the depths this game spans, but I think I'll save that for a later time or for all of you to explore yourselves. This game is an absolute must-have for Tetris fans, and of the games on this list, it's easily the one I recommend the most. Get a copy of it now while it's still sitting in the $15 to $25 range, as the price has gone up over the last few years since I bought my copy. When you think of NX games, you don't typically think platformer, but lo and behold, they actually did make a platforming game, and a pretty good one at that. Nangaku Shounen Papuwa-kun is certainly an interesting game, in terms of both gameplay and content. While it's definitely a platformer, and a decent one at that, it still has some of those NX hallmarks found in their RPGs. For example, there's a leveling system in this game, which is a really cool touch. There's also a handful of cutscenes, which I'm sure would be quite entertaining if I could read them. Not to mention the quirkiness of it all. I can't tell you another game where you'll see a man ride a giant fish with legs wearing fishnets across spike-filled water. And much like Mode 7, I'm a real sucker for the silicone graphics, which I think look pretty good for the time. I will mention the controls are a little slicker than I'd like, and the hit detection seems a bit off at times, but all around this game still holds up to the test of time. This game is probably the rarest of the bunch, as it's a bit hard to come by, but the price doesn't reflect that, as it goes for about $15. Lastly, we have an interesting crossover puzzle platformer called Panicnakayoshi World, featuring some familiar faces, those of Sailor Moon and Goldfish Warning, both of which have other SNES titles. Hardcore anime fans may recognize Nagisa from I'll Make a Habit Out of It, and Karumi from Karumi and the Seven Worms. Anyways, the goal of this game is to safely escort the second character out of each level, which is plagued by various enemies. Interestingly enough, there are two ways to clear a level, by simply defeating all of the enemies or by taking out enough enemies for the door to appear. While the premise is simple, this game is actually kind of tricky at times, especially once gimmicks like one-way blocks and portals are added in. Overall, it's a fun little title that'll keep you on your toes and is a must-have for fans of shoujo anime. A card of this game runs a bit on the steeper side of this list, sitting around $20 to $25, but if you're lucky, you can find it complete in box for around the same price. And there you have 5 cheap yet good SNES imports to add to your collection or to start your Super Famicom collection with. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas to everyone. I'll see you in 2020 with all new reviews.